Hi and welcome back to another video in the game development series. In this video, what we'll do is we'll download Unity and start playing around with it, which is exactly what I did when I first got Unity. Unity is my favorite game engine. There's also the Unreal Engine, there's Godot, a lot of those. But I really like Unity, and let's just jump directly into it. So to download Unity, you can head over to unity3d.com/getunity/download and just go over to choose your Unity plus download, and you should be able to download and install Unity. It would be pretty straightforward. Make sure to go on to individual and just get the student or the personal one, whichever one fits you. So once you do that, once you install Unity, what you can do is you can head over to the Unity Hub. So when you open Unity, you'll get something like this, and all you have to do is you can go over to new project, and then it'll give you a lot of options, which is 3D, 2D, and 3D with extras, things like that. So for now, let's just go with 3D because that sounds exciting. So I'll give it a name, which is, let's say, demo 3D. All right, so here's Unity. It is opened up, and what I can do now is, so I would highly recommend that all of you just play around with this even after the video, and you can go onto this create new icon, the plus icon, and go to 3D object and maybe select a plane. Let me just try that. So here is a plane that it has created for me. Now what's really happening is, let me actually get that plane back. So what's really happening is it's not exactly at the center, this plane. So let me go on to transform. If I right click, I can select reset, and now you can see that my game camera actually shows this plane. Another thing that I would probably want to do is, so this on the right hand side here, this is the inspector, and this allows us to move things around and rotate them, scale them, things like that. So what I can do here is, let me just make my plane 10 times as big on the x-axis, maybe not on the y-axis, and 10 times as big on the z-axis. So the reason I didn't do it on the y-axis is because y-axis is the upward downward axis, and I don't really want to increase a plane because a plane needs to have a really low y value. Otherwise it would just become a cube or a cuboid kind of thing. But what I can also do is I can shift my main camera upward slightly and then rotate it. So I can rotate it on the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. What I can also do is I can just go and move it from here. So I'm moving it along the z-axis now, and this is along the x-axis, and this is along the y-axis. So I don't really want it to be moved on the other axes. So let me just hit -10 and maybe 2 here, and you can try rotating it around different axes and figure out which one is the one that you actually want. So I basically knew what I wanted, so I've just turned it around by 30 degrees. Or actually, let me just keep it to 0, and let me also move the y to a 0. Actually, let's move the y to a 1 so that it's slightly above the plane. And what I can do now is I can go on to create, and I can select 3D object, and let me just try, let's say, a cube. So there's my cube, and I can also move it up like this. And right now, if I hit the run button, what it's going to do is actually nothing, but that actually starts the game. So it starts playing, and now you can see that the cube is just hanging there in midair. So let me stop this and come back to the inspector. And now here in the inspector, what I can do is, so I have a box collider here. This box collider is what actually allows this cube to interact with other objects. So here I can do an add component, and if I go on to add component, you can see that there's a lot of options here. So here I'll go on to physics, and I'm going to select rigid body. So this is the one that I want. Now here it gives me a lot of interesting options. So you can see I have a use gravity. I also have a constraint sting where I can just set the constraints, saying that I don't want it to move in these directions, only some particular directions. I'm not going to do any of those now. And I can also set the mass. Of course, the mass won't affect how long it takes for the cube to fall. So let's try hitting run again, and let's see what happens now since we have added gravity. So you can see that the cube falls to the plane, and because the cube has a box collider and the plane has a mesh collider, so let me just disable this. So disabling it is almost as good as just removing that component. And if I hit run now, what's going to happen is the cube is just going to fall through the cube, through the plane. So that's how it works. And right now you can see that if I do have the mesh collider active, then the cube just falls and sticks there. So what we can do is let me right click here, and I'm going to hit create, and in create I can create a physics material, which will allow me to set friction, bounciness, things like that. So let me just name this first material, and let's just keep the bounciness to, let's say, 0.5, and I'm going to apply the same material to my cube as well as my plane, and let's see what happens now. When I hit run, you can see that the cube just bounces a little. I know that's kind of weird, it should just maybe roll and fall, but that's another thing that I can do. I can also have a sphere, and let me just move the sphere here and apply the same material to the sphere as well. So when I hit play now, what's going to happen is the alright, so I forgot to add the rigid body to the sphere, so let me do that. Here I have the rigid body, and now if I hit play, it's going to bounce around like the cube did. So for the sphere, it actually looks pretty good. That looks like a ball which just bounced. So this is basically all you need to do. This is how I started. Just play around with it, look at what are the different options, what happens if you select is kinematic, what happens if you select some of these constraints, and what happens if you just add some more components and have them bounce on top of each other, maybe things like that. So let me try something like this and see what happens here. So I'm hoping the cube is the sphere is exactly above the cube. So that effect was actually pretty cool. So just play around with different components, try adding a capsule, try adding a cuboid, a cylinder, things like these, and just see what happens. In the next video, we'll actually start with some game, and we'll mostly be working 2D first, not directly 3D, but you can of course just play around with the 3D part first to just understand how Unity works. Also, this layout that I have here is the one that I prefer, with the inspector here, the project here, and we also have a console when we actually start writing code, and the game screen right here. And although I do have maximize on play selected, I sometimes just switch it off so that even when I hit play, this the actual scene remains here. So this is the layout that I prefer. You could have a different layout which you prefer, so just go and select that layout. You can also go into window, I think, and select from layouts different ones. So just play around with Unity for now after this video till I upload the next video where we'll actually start working on the game. And I'm hoping we could work something like a brick breaker for the first the basic game that we're going to work on, and then we'll move on to an advanced game. If you have different ideas on what kind of basic 2D game that we can work on, just put them in the comments and I'd be happy to consider those as well. If you haven't already shared the series with your friends, go do that. Share it with your friends so that they can join us on our journey to making our game in Unity. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do that as well. And hit the thumbs up button for this video. See you next time.